You're listening to the Practical Wealth Show with Curtis May, putting you in the driver's seat to control your finances. Let's start the Practical Wealth Talk about alternatives to Wall Street.
Hey everybody, Curtis May here. Welcome to another episode of the Practical Wealth Show. And what we're going to talk about today, continuing our review of the 7 principles of prosperity from the prosperity economics movement, of which I'm a proud member. I want to talk about flow. So what we're trying to do is, again, compare and contrast prosperity economics, what we call traditional advice versus typical advice, maxing out your 401k, getting a diversified portfolio of mutual funds. We want to draw a contrast. And so these principles, again, if you want a copy of this to put on your desk or email me at kurtmay@gmail.com, and I will fire one out to you. Go to the show notes and what is it? I have something in there about there's a website where you can get an intro to our process. And then when you just reply to the email or send me a follow-up email, say, hey, Curtis, can you send me the 7 principles? Because what you want to do is we use them. If you check out my episode with Kim Butler, we use the 7 principles as an opportunity filter. And then we ran those up against, for example, a 401k, or you can use it to, should I pay extra on my mortgage? Or, you want to be able to use them as a filter. Is this a good opportunity or bad one? See, I had a client meeting today and I said, listen, it's your money. As I always say, it's not my money, but what I want to do is give you a thought process. I want you to think. I don't want anybody to tell you what to think. And so that you have knowledge, which allows you to separate, truth from somebody's sales pitch. Right. And so you've got to be able, does this, whatever you're looking at, fit, just help you get from point A to point B. All that glitters is not gold. There are, and we don't give investment advice, but investments look good, but stuff happens. I've had this happen to me recently, whereas, why didn't I see this thing, the potential? So I've learned a lot. It's painful, but that's another story I'll get into later. But anyway, so let's talk about flow. Principle number 4 is flow. The 4th principle of prosperity is to create cash flow. And again, this is coming from the book, Financial Planning Has Failed. So make sure you download this book by original Rich Dad advisor, Kim Butler. And so you want to create cash flow with our dollars rather than focus on accumulation. See, typical financial advice is all about buying and holding. Right. And so I always tell people there's 2 thought processes, 2 narratives going on in the financial world. And so there is the personal finance, if you take information from what I call the financial entertainers or some of the people that cater to middle America, here's their advice in a nutshell. Right. Buy and hold. So if you're putting $100 a month in a EFT bank draft out of your fund, buy and hold, dollar cost average. So these kind of 2 go together. So they'll tell you, look, sometimes the market's up, sometimes the market's down, and what your average, so I always get these in reverse, cost per share will be averaged in the cheaper price. And, when you're ready to retire, you'll have X amount of shares and it'll be worth X amount of dollars. And so, but again, that's based on the assumption that the market always goes up. And so you have to ask yourself, does the market always go up? As I record this in September 2018, we're at the end of a 10-year long expansion. Okay. And I'm watching, clips on these TV shows with financial entertainers just cheerleading the market. Oh, everything is great. And, this time is different because all the fundamentals are great. Unemployment's no, never mind that, a lot of these numbers have been massaged, okay, to fit a certain narrative. But, you have to look who invests who are the advertisers on those shows to know where so you're not going to bite the hand that feeds you. So who butters their bread? So they're going to cheerlead for that system. And so I'm not saying it's wrong. Everybody has their self-interest. You just need to know what they are and compare theirs to yours, right? And so, because if you look at, so what is the third one? So is buy and hold, dollar cost average, get out of debt. We have a whole episode on that, right? Get out of debt and buy some term insurance, buy term investor difference. But again, if you took a corporate finance course, they don't teach none of that stuff, right? Here's what they teach: flow, cash flow, right? You know, what does Rich Dad say? You got to buy asset. Asset is something that puts money in your pocket every month. And I'm talking about from the get-go, right? Priority number two, not priority number two. The number two is what is number two? Cash flow. Velocity, right? Which is another prosperity principle. You have to create velocity. So you'll hear this if you start listening to, when you hear the Buffetts and the I love Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank. I love Marcus Sabonis, The Prophet. So I would check those shows out. And because he always makes people go into their numbers, folks. You got to look at the numbers. The numbers tell the story. Financial literacy is accounting. The ability to read numbers. The numbers tell a story. And if you're not paying attention, because your household is a business. And remember, economos means house manager. It's not, economics. The root of that is the Greek word economos, which just means manager of household affairs. So it's not this big, this Paul Krugman stuff, this high level stuff you see in the New York Times. That is, people wanting to raise something that's simple up to the level of a science. And this is not physics. It's not that deep. It's really based on, so all that modeling, and central planning, man in the masses, or man as an individual, is unproductive, and they're going to pursue their self-interest. So trying to direct that is kind of like herding cats. And so it's the ultimate of hubris to think that, it's 12, 15 people know enough to, direct traffic, so to speak, or, hit some agenda or some number. So that's ridiculous, but you can't control the economy, but you can control your personal economy. And that's what you do, your production and consumption as a family. So when you look at that, so what they teach is cash flow. They teach velocity. So Mr. Wonderful goes, hey, if I put 50 grand or 100 grand or 200 grand in this deal, how soon do I get my money back? Right. So I can move it into something else, and I'm going to get that back, and I'm going to move into something else. Meanwhile, all of those situations are throwing off cash flow, but he's using the same money to do it. That's velocity. Right. The third thing, if you took a corporate finance course, they teach us leverage. So, and we've talked about this, it's different between being in debt and having debt. If you've got $100,000 in cash and $100,000 of debt, you're not in debt. You have debt. But I would argue, if you look at that same situation a year ago, if you got compound interest, unless you're earning 6%, that means in the year 12 months from now, you got 106. And then in your asset account, and then your debt is going down to, let's say, 98,000 because you got amortizing debt. And so I would argue, if, you try and get out of debt, you want to be financially free, you want to be debt free, because they ain't the same thing. All right. That's what you got to understand. You got to know how money works. And most people don't, because there's no class called Money 101 in school. And what passes for financial education is really financial indoctrination by banks, Wall Street, and the government. And it basically says, in so many words, give your money to us. So that's, you got to look at that. So I just want you to be aware. I ain't telling you what to do. And so, but here, think about this. Here are the 4 rules. That's where you got to have your rules. So when we look at these 7 principles, you got to say, well, all right, here are the 4 basic rules that guide financial institutions' advice. See, rule number 1, they want us to give them our money. Rule number 2, they want us to give them our money on a regular basis. Rule number 3 is they want us to give them our money on a regular basis, and they want to keep our money for as long as possible. And rule number 4, They want us to give them our money on a regular basis, keep it for as long as possible, and give us back as little as possible over the longest period of time possible. Right. And so you got to examine those 4 rules and that you're using and what you need to get done for your family goals and see how those compare. See, I would argue they might be at odds with each other. Okay. I'm just saying. So I'm not saying they're wrong, but they have a self-interest and you need to know what that is. And then you've got to have your agenda and you've got to you got to start out with, you got to have a plan. So you don't have a plan, you part of somebody else's plan. Okay. I'm just saying. And, so you have to focus on cash flow, right? Velocity, leverage, right? So if you pay the debt off, I would argue you just made yourself poor because you're debt free, but now you have no money. So I'd rather have money and, because you've got $100,000, can you make more money than money costs you? Even if you just had it liquid, you're better off to get, so let's say you got a 30-year mortgage at 5 or 6%. So what's the payment on that? $600 a month? I mean, why in the hell would you pay that off? Okay. And understanding economics or the what's going on with the Federal Reserve, that they're trying to create inflation at 2%. And so in this scenario, debt is good as long as you can pay for it, as long as it's good debt, something that's buying you an asset, because inflation destroys the debt. So it's really a tax, or it's a way to default without defaulting. And so you just want to put your interests in a line with the government, with the banks, with these institutions, and just understand the game. And, you want to use debt to buy assets. So you literally create money and build cash flow, right? And so money is an idea. And that's the thing. You've got to learn. So you got to train your brain to think. You're taught to go work for money. And, I tell my daughters, they're talking about the hours and, the paychecks, and I'll stop. I said, I was right with my daughter and, I'm saying, look, you can only save 30 cents out of $1 goes to savings. And we broke that down in an early episode. And, my 15-year-old gets it. I still get a deer in headlights. I think I got her committed to doing 20. And she's still looking at me sideways. But and then we were driving. I said, well, Jade, what's rule number 1 from Rich Dad, Poor Dad? And then she had her headphones in. I said, Jade, take your headphones out. What's rule number 1? Rule number 1, because often people say, oh, I've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But y'all have not read it because you don't pay attention to it. That's part of the reason I do this, is so that you got to implement this stuff. You've got to study this stuff. Oh, I read it a couple of years ago, blah, blah, blah. It is not a damn Harlequin romance. You have to study this stuff. You go to work for money. We've got to study how money works if we're going to accumulate it. Okay. And not accumulate it. If we're going to, become financially independent. So, and that's work. Again, we talked about transformation. Transformation is hard. Transformation is bloody. Transformation is intense. And so do you want to change your life? Well, it's hard work. To reprogram yourself out of 30 years of indoctrination that you've been getting. So that's my job. That's what the Practical Wealth Show is all about. All right. And so we're still on flow, right? So you've got to understand that you got to transition to understand that the corporate finance, right? Cash flow, velocity, leverage, not trying to get rid of the debt. And the fourth one is, what our private banking, private reserve systems, Rob, is using. Banks buy whole life by the truckload. Okay. And so that's where they save money. That's what makes up their tier 1 capital. So if you don't know, ask me for I'm going to actually put this in a website, look at the private reserve strategy so you can understand our banking model. We'll send you a little report, how IBC, infinite banking concept, really works. And we'll see some information on it if you don't know. But we show people the best place to store your cash is permanent life insurance, right? Your serious cash. And so that's a longer call. We've hinted at it. I've got some stuff with that, but you call me. You didn't know what that is. And but what happens is that's where they save money, right? So the fourth thing is they buy whole life insurance with a mutual dividend paying mutual company. Do not buy index, universal life. They don't buy none of that crap. Okay. Don't buy term. They buy because it's a place to store cash. So those are the four things that, that's corporate finance. We took a corporate finance course. That was they teach. But here's the thing. Those strategies work in personal finance and they're safer and you have more liquidity use of control. So you got to ask yourself, which game do you want to play? Okay. Wealth is a choice. And so you got to choose to be rich. You got to choose to become financially independent. You've got to, success leaves clues. So you've got to look at principles. It's not about ideas, trick plays, loopholes. It's just about a philosophy about when money hits your account, what do you do with it? Okay. And so you've got to focus on cash flow. See, net worth does not pay your bills, take you on vacation. And typical advice tends to focus you on building a bigger pile of money. It's all about chasing accumulation in places like 401ks, like mutual funds, like IRAs that you can't touch. Right. So if you got $100,000, $200,000, but you still got to go out and you got to get a car payment, you got 2 car payments, you're paying $1,100 a month, $400 or $500 per car in a household for car payments. And you have money hoping that some markets go up. Again, there's more opportunity in minimizing your losses than is trying to pick winning investments. So you got, 20, 30% of your money leaving your personal economy because you don't control the bank and you're buying things. You're basically investing for capital gains. I call it the greater fool theory. You're buying something at, $25 a share and you hope that when you retire, it's at, $50 a share or whatever. So that's, you only make money one way. And so that is not investing, folks. That is speculation. Okay. So I'm not saying you shouldn't speculate, but should you be speculating with 90% of your portfolio? I don't know. I don't. That's all I'm saying. And so, you've got to focus on cash flow, folks. You can't eat equity, can't eat net worth. You want to go on vacation and stay. That's a function of cash flow. All I'm focusing on is cash flow. How can I build passive income? Because I found that Curtis is a really good beach bum. All right. And I could lay on the beach, play beach volleyball, have a waitress bring me photos and margaritas all day. Okay. So I'm working to create that life. All right. And I still want to work. I might just work and like Andrew Carnegie would have a castle he'd rent out somewhere. And this is like in the early 1900s. So he would take his whole family on vacation and he would run this is before cell phones and internet, but he would run his affairs half the day and spend the rest of the day with his family. But, so I think about that. Hey, maybe I've structured my business so I don't have to be in Philly. I can be, as long as I have a laptop and internet connection, I'm good to go. And one time we were in Savannah on vacation. So everybody gets up late. So I went to work out. I come back, I had a client wanted to see me. Says, all right, I know everybody's still in bed. So I took a 8:30 call. We did a web call from the Starbucks inside the resort and boom, came back home, went out and enjoyed the rest of our day. That's how you do it, folks. Right. And so that's what you want to be able to do. So you have to focus on cash flow. Well, are you creating revenue streams? What do you do when you want to save it? And then you've got to buy things that put a check in your mouth. So we use bridge loans. It's real estate. I've had somebody buy ATM machines. Some of it's going to be active. Some of it's going to be passive, laundromats, things that, don't need a lot of employees and that you can own, but it's throwing off cash flow. So there are ways to focus on that. So when you save money, saving from income, investing from assets, how could you do that? See, this is how you fund your financial freedom. So it's rental properties, traditional or online businesses, intellectual property, publishing, licensing, royalties. I like network marketing. If you build it right, you can get residual and override income, referral marketing or affiliate marketing. Providing financing to others through peer-to-peer lending. We talked about bridge loans. And so we focused on one way, accumulation and locking our money up, but we don't look at, okay, here are things, because what happens is, here's the formula: cash, right? Pay yourself first, get some cash, take that cash, buy income producing assets, which throws off more cash. And then you save a percentage of that cash so that you can buy more assets that generate cash flow, folks. And watch, rinse and repeat. It's a really simple formula. What people tend to do is that we want to make more money, buy more stuff, get bigger car, bigger house payment, and now you're trapped in a lifestyle cycle where you got to make more money just because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? So our fourth principle today that I wanted to focus on is cash flow, right? Principle number 4 is flow. So focus on cash flow. Does it put money in your pocket every month? If it doesn't put money in your pocket, it is not an asset. It is a liability, right? And so if you start to train your brain to look for that, that is how you get out the rat race. So, what is your financial independence number? So if you are netting $5,000 a month, then if you can, over the next year, let's say, year, 3 years, 5 years, less than 10, which is our goal, is to help people get out the rat race in less than 10 years, then what happens is you need X amount of, let's say if it's real estate. So if it's not, this is a high ball, let's say $400 a month that you can net off for properties. So what do you need? You need 12. Well, how many of those is that a year? Depending on how many years you want to do. So you need to do that math, folks, for yourself. What is your financial independence number? What is the asset class that you want to do? And then you work backwards. And so now you're focused. You're not just, fiddle farting around during a day or a week and letting time get away from you because you are out there like a ship without a rudder, bouncing around from thing to thing to thing. Sometimes you got to say no to stuff. And you got to ask your stuff. I have entrepreneurial ADD, so I'm always, everything's exciting to me. But I've learned to, okay, how does this help me with my core offer? And now, even though it might be interesting, I just don't want to be bothered because I'm really good and I'm really excited about what I do. And I don't want things, if it doesn't complement that, I don't really want to be bothered with that. And I'm really good at figuring it out really quickly. If I think it would be good, it might be great. I just don't want to do it. People call me with network marketing things. They're great, but I don't want to do it. It's out of alignment with what I'm trying to do. I'll support you, but I don't want to do it. And, could I do it? Yes, I can do anything. See, that's what my parents taught me. You can do anything you want to do. And I believe winners win. So if I do it, I am going to win. And so a lot of you have to get your self-confidence up. You've got to get your kids' self-confidence up. My parents said, look, you can be anything you want to be. And so I grew up with that. Yeah, I can be anything I want to be, and I believe that. And so people say, well, you're disadvantaged. I'm not. I had this guy tell me, well, are you we're disadvantaged? This is Black Expo business. I was like, I'm not. You're disadvantaged. I ain't disadvantaged. I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. And so if as a matter of fact, I didn't even work with him because I couldn't stand that attitude. And that might be another talk. So I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole. But listen, principle number 4, flow. You guys think about that. Share this and have a discussion about this. See, I do some of these things. I want you to think, because I want you to move from financial childhood where you waiting for other people to do it for you to financial adulthood where you take control of your life. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Practical Wealth. To access the show notes and resources, go to practicalwealthshow.com. To get your questions on the show, go to practicalwealthshow.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any investment decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Practical Wealth. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.